just traded $82.80, and that's a $400 short sell off right there, which is pretty good. Nice outcome. That was the trade we tweeted out. Sell side $83.40. We got down to a low price of $82.60. Not bad. Could have been better with a target price of $82.50, $82.45, $82.40. Never made it. Never made it. Who'd have thought that, guys? Anyway, dollar obviously very much in favor of that short sell. I like it. I like it a lot. And obviously if the dollar keeps well bid, we should be able to recognize the opportunity and stick with it. Just stick with the play and see if we can finally get that $82.50 offer. And that would be brilliant news. And obviously we've got a challenge to go any further than that, because we've got this very, 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 very toxic buy trade here that takes out this whole range here from $82.10 up to $82.70. So I like the sell trade. That's made a lot of money. It's been once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. And in fact, if you look backwards, you can see that it's been nearly all sell trades this morning. We talked about market structure this morning. We talked about making sure you do the basics correctly, working really hard to make sure your basics are on point. And if you get your basics right, life becomes a lot easier as a trader, because you're drawing in the necessary levels, you're drawing in the necessary structures, and you're seeing and recognizing what it is that's happening. And if you see and recognize what's happening, well, you can trade them, can't you? If you can see them, you can trade them. If you can't see them, there is no trade visible on your screens, and therefore you're struggling. So make sure you do get into the habit of doing it, making sure you're getting the necessary work done. And as I said, the promise is that if you do the extra work, life becomes an awful lot easier. And we've just seen a big acceleration on that oil short, which is perfect. $83.20 back into this order block again at $82.60. And that's another $600 winner right there. And I would take this as my first target price. Obviously, there's a bullish order block just in here at 60. So take that as a target price. And obviously, you're aware of that bullish order block just there. And don't fall asleep on the opportunity. Don't fall asleep on the opportunity. So it's a nice trade, a nice outcome. And you can see that this trade itself has been very good indeed. Very good indeed. In terms of data this morning, not a huge amount, obviously, in terms of US data today. We've got big numbers out of the UK this morning in Europe. We've seen that the UK inflation came in a little bit hotter than expected at 10.1. So it's not exactly massively positive for equities from 7 o'clock onwards, is it? It's not been a massively positive day for equities, and you can see that that's led to equities really quite struggling to make any additional headway to the upside. And when it broke structure, we broke the RGL. Of course, we got a buy-side bounce, failed auction into this sell-side order block. You can see that selling back into this, staying below the RGL, sell-side only. And quite a nice little trade outcome, on the short sell. So CPI numbers, 10.1%. You'll see that as a green number. Obviously, it depends where you are in the cycle. Sometimes it's green for the markets and sometimes it's red for the markets. But obviously, the standard is that if it's a better than prior number, better being bigger, then of course it's going to be green. So core CPI numbers at 6.5% was also bigger than expected at 6.4 expected. PPI numbers was also bigger at 0.4 against a minus 0.4. PPI output numbers, however, did drop to 0.2%. RPI was heavier at 12.6%. HPI was down slightly at 13.6 against 14.2. And then we had the Eurozone CPI numbers also coming in pretty high at 9.9%. They had been pretty much in line with the UK numbers, except they have dropped just ever so slightly there. And the reason for that, obviously, was the inherited inflation that you get when your currency drops a little bit. And as you know, when we had the fiscal situation developing in the background, the pound did drop a little bit more than the euro, and that's obviously added a little bit more imported inflation into the UK, and that's probably part of the discrepancy between the Eurozone and the UK numbers. There is 9.9% against 10.1, almost exactly the same numbers. So pretty much doing the same things at exactly the same times as one would expect. As we move into the afternoon session, of course, we have the Canadian inflation numbers, minus 0.1% for Canada. Headline CPI numbers, the median, the trimmed, and the common numbers, all pretty much in line with prior, as you would expect. They don't jump all over the place. So the median number at 4.8, the trim number at 5.1, down slightly from 5.2, and the common CPI 5.6, down slightly from 5.7. So that's something that you'd be paying attention to. Last month's number of minus 0.3% obviously starts to work its way into those yearly numbers. And with a headline of minus 0.1, if it does come out as that, then obviously your median, your trimmed, and your common numbers will start edging ever so slightly lower. Into the US session, we do have some housing numbers coming out at 1:30. The building permits at 1.52 and the housing starts at 1.46. Means that we have one that benefits and one that drops, so a bit of an offset between the two US numbers. The Beige Book tonight at 7 o'clock. It used to be a very important data release. It does have a lot of detail in the Beige Book. It's not having as much impact simply because the Fed's trajectory is very, very well known. It's priced in. The market's already pretty much up to date. So the Beige Book not containing as much information that gives us much market leading stuff to work with. And that's it for the day. Not a lot in the US session, except for the Canadian numbers. Obviously, if you're an oil trader, because we're back on our normal schedule, oil numbers this afternoon at 3:30. Oil numbers at 3:30. Then, of course, you can see that we want to make sure we get ready for our narrative. So we build our narrative beforehand. We look at what the forecasts are. We try and build out what the forecasts are, and then we try and see whether it comes in line with the forecasts, away from the forecasts. And obviously, the quicker we are at getting that number, remember, what we trade is not necessarily the headline. What we trade is the detail. In other words, what we're really focused on, whilst the headline does have a big impact on us, the speed of the headline is going to be far too fast for us to do any trade. So we still pay attention to it, but what we trade is if we have an opportunity based on the headline to buy or sell at premiums or discounts, we can obviously get involved in the detail. The detail comes from the way of the gasoline numbers and the distillates numbers. So if we pay attention to those numbers when they hit, we can make a quick read, get some levels on our charts beforehand, and then look to take advantage. We made a lot of money last week on those trades, and obviously we'll try again this week and see if we get a trade narrative. So welcome in, guys. I hope you're all good this morning. We're ready to rock and roll. We had some questions this morning for Kim. Obviously, being a girl, we wanted some relationship questions answered, but there was no girls in this morning to help us. So the guys were floundering around Kim this morning, trying to figure out what girls mean sometimes, and we'll perhaps repost the question at some stage. So, you know, we were really floundering, and we didn't know how a question should be answered. So perhaps something we can deal with when the opportunity arises. But in the meantime, I'm going to grab some lunch. I think I've got some bacon in the fridge. So I'll see you guys in 10 minutes, 15